We got people.
All right, I think we'll just give another 30 seconds for people to keep trickling in. All right, let's get started. Well, good evening to all, and thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Grace Davenport, and I am the Trail Tourism Program Manager for Anacostia Trails Heritage Area, otherwise known as Maryland Milestones, and we're welcoming you to our artist talk tonight. I first just want to get into some housekeeping. This video is being recorded, and the YouTube link will be made available to everyone who registered, and we'll put it on our Facebook page, so just keep your eye out for that. All participant audio and video is turned off. Questions can be submitted throughout the presentation, or if you have any technical issues, you can submit those in the question box as well, and I will try to help you out. And we'll be having a Q&A after the talk. So at any point, if you have a question, just put it in the box and I'll get to it when the talk is over. So we are one of the 13 state certified heritage areas within Maryland. We encompass the northern Prince George's County region. We're made up of 17 communities and we have a budget of about $200,000. We have a staff of 1 full-time, 2 part-time, and 1 volunteer. And our focus is on history, art, culture, and natural resources. We provide grants through the state, technical assistance, and partnership building. We are always accepting donations, so if you would like to make one, you can visit our website, anacostiatrails.org, or by emailing me at grace@anacostiatrails.org. And this is a map of our heritage area with Laurel to the north, Colmar Manor to the south, and Bowie to the east. And this is our Heritage Center located in the Pyramid Atlantic Arts Center in downtown Hyattsville. Our gallery is located within the Heritage Center. While it is technically open, it is unfortunately experiencing some water issues that we hope to have resolved by Friday. Don't worry, Daria, it's nothing is wrong with your art.
Great.
Yeah, so tonight, Daria will be discussing her exhibit, Still Changes, that is currently on display at the Heritage Center Gallery. Daria received her bachelor's in studio art and art history from the University of Maryland, College Park in May 2020. Congrats. Her artwork focuses on the connections between humans and the natural world. This past fall, her work was on display at the Sandy Spring Museum in Makers Among Us, a group exhibition featuring emerging artists. She also currently interns at the National Women's History Museum creating educational programming, and at the Sandy Spring Museum doing exhibition design and coordination. Daria's exhibit will be up with us until May 30th, so we invite you to come check it out. So now I'm just going to pull up Daria's slides and I'll turn myself off and we'll get started.
All right. Great. Well, thank you, Grace, for introducing everything. And I just want to start by saying thank you to everyone else at Maryland Milestones for making this all happen and for hosting this event. And a big thank you to everyone joining us today. I really appreciate you all taking the time to be here. So today I'll be talking about my current show, Still Changes, at the Heritage Center Gallery. And Grace, if you want to go to the next slide. So this show is a set of abstract oil paintings and a couple of chalk pastel drawings that draw inspiration from nature. And this was a fairly big departure from my previous work. Throughout high school and college, I was mostly working representationally and realistically. But once we had to switch to online courses and working from home during my last semester, I found that I wasn't really able to focus on the work that I was doing before. And, we were all so confused and stressed, and everything was just up in the air. And I just felt like the work I was doing wasn't really important anymore, or I wasn't connecting with it. And I guess it kind of makes sense that when everything changed and we had to change our lifestyles so drastically, that my art would change with it. So I first started with abstract work when I just got so frustrated with a landscape painting that I was working on. And I basically just said, well, I have to do something because I was still in school and I needed to submit something for a grade. So let's just put some paint on a canvas and see what happens. So that's what I did. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the process, and it was very therapeutic and just went a lot better than what I was trying to do before. And it was great because I didn't really have to think so like consciously about what I was doing. I could just kind of sit there and just do whatever, and it didn't really matter what it looked like. It was kind of almost like a form of meditation where it just helped to kind of stop thinking about everything else and just focus on the present moment. So, all right, next slide. So, but like I said, I was enjoying the process of abstract work, but wasn't really super happy with what the end result was at first. Um, and the idea to kind of draw from nature didn't really occur to me till a little bit later. And this was actually the first abstract work I did that was kind of drawing from nature. And it occurred to me when I was like walking along the beach by the Chesapeake. And for anyone who's been out there, you know that there's a ton of clay in the soil in some of the places. And so you get these rocks that have formed from hardened clay. And they have all of these kind of crazy colors, a lot of reds, yellows, and oranges, but even sometimes blues and grays. And there was one rock in particular that had really kind of drawn my attention, which is the one that you can see pictured on the top. And it had kind of split in half, revealing a lot of little holes and kind of shapes and patterns on the inside. And I saw it and thought that it would make a great painting. So I took some pictures of the rocks, and when I got home, I did this painting based off of them. And this really changed my kind of technique and process around abstract work. And I think it helped me a lot to have something to kind of draw from initially. And I think that people connected more with it as well, because while it is an abstract work and the form's abstracted, it still is reminiscent of the objects that it's drawing from. And so I think it was nice to have something a little bit more concrete for people to connect with and for myself to connect with. So this work is actually not in the show, but I wanted to include it because it kind of started this whole series and this set of works. But it was also a really interesting challenge to kind of take something that's real and abstract it, because you really had to, or I had to, really look at the object and figure out what its characteristics were and what about it drew me to it. So kind of from then on, I was looking a lot more closely at the things around me when I went outside or on walks, which there were plenty of during this past year. And I would search for patterns that interested me, take photos of them, and then see if I felt like making anything based off them. So now let's talk about some of the other works in the show. So if you want to go to the next slide. So these two are the only non-oil painting works. They're both done in chalk pastel. And the one on the left, you can see Clay Beach. It was also drawing from similar imagery as the previous painting, but I thought that it would be interesting to take the same kind of source material, but try to do it in a slightly different way and to see how using a different medium changed the final results. And I have these two placed together because they also were sort of a mini kind of set of their own. And the other one, Weathered, is based on a weathered tree stump. So, all right, next. All right, this one, Rotting, is, as you might have guessed from the title, is based on rotting wood. And what really kind of drew me to that imagery was the way that you could start to see the different layers of the wood and of the tree trunk being revealed as it starts to break down. So I wanted to mimic that and kind of show that pattern with this. And this one was a lot of fun because it's also a little bit of like an illusion sort of work. And all right, next. This one was based off of some sort of fungus or fungus-like thing that you can see pictured in the corner. And I included the picture of this one, or the picture that it was inspired by, because I thought that it showed how sometimes the paintings can just really become their own thing. Um, the source image is a starting point, and sometimes the works do stay closer or like more reminiscent of that image, but other times they can really drift a little further away and sort of go their own direction and become their own thing, which has also been just a lot of fun with doing abstract because you don't necessarily have or at least the way when I'm doing it, I don't necessarily have a set idea of what I want it to look like in the end. So it can kind of go in any direction, which is a lot of fun. And then, so next image. This one was actually based off of Barnacles from Maine because in August, I went with my family to Acadia National Park in Maine, and which is just a gorgeous place. Lots of nature, lots of things to kind of take photos of and to make art based off of. And this one took forever to paint, but it was also a lot of fun. All right, then next image. And this one, which a lot of you might have already seen as it's been sort of the main promotional image for the show, was also based from the name you can see, was based off of these twisting and interlocking and intertwining branches that I saw while on a hike in Northeast Maryland. And it was a specific tree, like kind of tree that was that there were a lot of on that trail, but I don't know which tree. And this one kind of has a little bit more realism to it, I think, but what was difficult with this one was actually deciding when it was finished. And I think that's something that's been a bit of a challenge with any of the abstract work I've been doing, because like I mentioned, I don't have a clear idea of what it's going to look like in the end or what I want it to look like in the end. And so it doesn't always have a natural stopping point. And that was definitely what happened with this work. For the longest time, I could not decide if it was finished. And I actually ended up sort of setting it aside while I worked on other things for at least a month, maybe even longer. And eventually I just accepted that it was finished because I didn't really feel like working on it anymore. And so sometimes things don't necessarily ever feel like they're done. You just kind of have to say, well, it's done. Next image. So what unites all of these works is in part the subject matter depicted. I mean, they're all abstracts that were inspired by nature, but they're also very different environments, different locations, and stylistically varied. And I think what really unites them more than the subject matter is the time period that they were created in and the unique situation in which they were reacting to. And they were both a personal reaction in that, I didn't feel like I could work on what I was doing before, but they were also sort of reacting in a way that I think a lot of people can relate to. When quarantine first happened last March, we all of a sudden were spending a lot more time outside because it was really all we could do. And I think that really, for a lot of us, changed our relationship to nature. And hopefully that's something that kind of, sticks around for some people. I think that a lot of us will continue to spend more time outside and to have more appreciation of the outdoors. And but what was interesting for me when everything first happened last March was how the the spring blossoms and the wildlife and everything turning green again sort of became a friendly reminder that even as our society seemed to grind to a halt, time was still moving forward. The plants and the animals, they didn't care that COVID was happening. They were just doing their thing. And for me, that was very kind of comforting in a way because it just signaled that things were gonna be okay and that they were gonna continue. And that's actually where the name for the show, Still Changes, comes from. And as for what I will be doing next, well, as the pandemic is hopefully drawing to a close, I think that my approach will kind of change with the change of situation. I do want to kind of continue working abstract and drawing from nature, because I think that, you know, having a strong connection and relationship with the natural world is an important thing regardless of pandemic or no pandemic, and something that's very important right now, especially as we're kind of facing a lot of big decisions in regards to protecting the environment and how we're going to move forward as a society. But I do think that I will be finding different ways to kind of unite the works and different themes to explore within abstract natural forms. I've been thinking a lot about how we form opinions based on nature and the kinds of connotations that different landscapes and natural objects can hold, specifically how landscapes and climates can be used to sort of stereotype. Uh, for example, my dad is Persian, and a lot of his family still lives in Iran, and we go there to visit like about once a year. And I've always gotten a lot of comments whenever I mention that we go to Iran. And some of the more interesting ones to me were the ones that involved the landscape or the climate. There were a lot of comments like, is there anything there? Is it just a desert? And people are very surprised to hear that things like that there are 4 seasons there. It snows in the winter in some places. And while there are deserts, there are also beaches and forests and mountains and a multitude of other landscapes. And I'm not so surprised that people think those things, but it does interest me that desert has sort of become synonymous with either like third world or a place that has a lack of culture or beauty or interest. Because, you know, even if Iran was just a giant desert, that wouldn't mean that it doesn't have culture or beauty. Deserts can be breathtaking landscapes, and any human settlement will have its own unique culture and will have things that are interesting about it. So that's kind of where I see this whole sort of abstract process going, and maybe taking it to a place where I'm exploring desert landscapes in a way that sort of pushes back against the stereotype of deserts having not being beautiful places, and also working to kind of expand what people think about the landscape of Iran and the Middle East in general. So that's what I have set in store for the future. But for now, you all can see my current work at the Maryland Milestone Heritage Center Gallery in Hyattsville through the end of May. I want to thank you all for listening, and we can take questions now if there are any.
All right, thanks, Daria. Okay, you can probably see me now, right?
Yes, we can.
That was great. Yeah, I definitely love the idea of connecting nature to art, especially now. I think everything you said is absolutely correct. And I love the name of the exhibit, Still Changes.
Thank
I think
you.
it's really good. Yeah, yeah.
A lot of brainstorming.
Yeah. So while we are waiting for some questions to come in, I have one. I just want to clarify too. Some of these are for sale. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. I can say which ones if you wanted to look through them, or we can just direct people to the website. I don't know.
Yeah, we can. It's all up on the website for all of our attendees. On our gallery page, every piece is listed with the size and whether it's for sale and what the price is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what is one of your like favorite local places to go for walks and look for inspiration?
I actually have been looking a lot just around where I live because we live in the woods actually. So, and we have like walking trails that we've kind of made, but they also connect to some other ones like at a park. I don't know which park exactly. Um, so I did walk a lot of those. A lot of these images kind of came from around here, but other than that, I don't know if I have a favorite place. I think Patapsco is great, of course. And I also really love the kind of landscapes like around the bay, and I spent a lot of time like in the town of Northeast Maryland, which is also in the northeast of Maryland, and which is where they have like all the clay and these, just a lot of, I think, unique sort of, of imagery.
Yeah, I love Patapsco. It's amazing.
It is. It's I yeah. I need to spend some more time there. I haven't spent that much
We have a lot of questions coming in. Okay,
time.
so I'll
Great.
start from the top and then we'll roll right on through. What you said about abstract work not necessarily having a natural stopping point is very interesting. I hadn't even thought of that. How did you end up determining what your stopping point was?
Well, it was kind of different for all of them, but like for branches, I just kind of reached a point where I didn't feel like working on it anymore, and so was just kind of like, well, I guess this is where it's done then. For others, it I don't know. It's kind of hard to say how I figured it out. It was kind of just, I think, a combination of me not wanting to work on it anymore and also feeling like it could be like it could look like a finished piece. Um, and then sometimes I did have a clearer idea of what I wanted kind of going in. So it varied a bit.
And how do you choose the palette for your abstract pieces?
I choose the palettes based off of the the imagery it's drawing from. Um, so like for the clay kind of inspired works, a lot of warm colors and then some of the kind of cool tones that are in there as well. For for the ones inspired more by like wood, it's a lot of neutrals and kind of browns. And then I always look for something else too to kind of make it a little more unexpected, or just add a little bit of interest, like adding in some blues, which you might not see exactly when you look at a tree, but you might kind of, if you're looking at a picture of it, or if you're looking at it in certain light or things, you might see some blues in the shadows and some kind of warmer tones in the um, light spots.
And how do you draw the thin lines in your pieces, and what's the scale of the installations?
The thin lines in which in the two drawings?
Yeah, maybe the person means the drawings.
Okay, I'm gonna go with that. So the drawings were actually done with chalk pastels, so I just used like the kind of edges of it where I could get a finer line and would draw them. As for any sort of like finer kind of details in the paintings, just a lot of kind of smaller brushes. I mean, none of these works are so small that any of the details are really tiny. I think it's a little hard to tell, of course, when it's all on the computer screen. But I guess, so what's the size of the installation was the other part?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with installation as in each image, or is that like
Yeah,
the whole
was
show?
that on previous slides? I can back up if you want.
Yeah, all the dimensions are listed. So yeah, this one's 30 by 40 inches. This one's also the same size. This is a little bit smaller, 24 by 36. And then I think the rest are all 18 by 24. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Let's see. Someone says, I look forward to seeing new paintings inspired by deserts.
thank you.
And I agree too. I think the desert landscape is gorgeous. It's like, and I've grown up in Maryland, so I'm so used to the East Coast. And if you
Yeah,
are used to that and you see a desert, or if you know, experience it in any way, it's just incredible. And
I know.
some people say, why go
There,
to the desert? But I mean, there's some beautiful
there,
landscape there.
yeah, it's like it's always been interesting because people, some people kind of have that immediate reaction of, oh, why would you go to a desert? But then also there's so many deserts that people will travel from like all over the world to go and see, including in the US. So
Someone asks if you have a favorite work from the collection.
I think that my favorite work is always changing. Um, I hmm, I really like the fungi one. Um, I think that that's my favorite, at least for now. Um, as far as kind of what a lot of other people have said, I think the rotting and branches have kind of been the crowd favorites.
And this is sort of in line with that question. Was there any particular piece you enjoyed creating the most, whether it be process, original source, etc.?
I liked the drawings, I think, kind of the best, just because they were different because I had been doing a lot of painting at the time, so it was nice to use a different medium, but also because they were just very free and kind of flowing, and it was a lot of fun to kind of draw out all the lines and the shapes.
Mm-hmm. And are you considering any macro, desert, forest, coastal, or mountainous landscapes, patterns, or textures for your next project?
Mm, macro, like, I'm not sure what they mean.
Maybe in like as a theme. I don't know, maybe we'll see if this person
Um,
adds to it.
yeah, if they want to just clarify,
Okay.
great.
Um, we'll go to another question while we're waiting for that. Do you ever paint outdoors?
Not really. It's always something it would make sense given the theme. And it is something that I've always wanted to do. I just haven't been sure of how to set it up. Um, and so I haven't done it because I just haven't tried to figure out how to get set up.
Yeah.
Um, but sometime I will.
Excuse me. Do you have a particular artist playlist that you listen to while you work, or anything that you play in the background?
Yeah, I'm usually listening to something. I I don't have a particular playlist or anything. I've kind of just put all my music on shuffle. But lately it's been a lot of sort of bedroom pop type stuff and just kind of things that are chill and kind of have nice like flows to them.
All right, and this person did clarify macro as in large because many of these are very detailed in the microverse.
Okay. Um, hmm. I haven't, I haven't really, well, okay, I do from time to time think about doing paintings that are larger than these. Um, I'm not sure if I will or if I'll kind of stick to around these sizes, but it would be a lot of fun to kind of do something very big. As for like levels of like details and things, I I'm just always really drawn to details, and it's what I really love to do with paintings and with any medium. So I would probably stick to having lots of details.
Someone asked, does this type of work help you as an outlet during the pandemic, um, more than your usual style might have? They love the paintings are a positive byproduct of the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah, I like it too. It's like one of the few positive byproducts I've had from all this. But yeah, it definitely helped me a lot more through all of this um, because as I kind of mentioned, just when all of this was starting, I had been doing a lot of very representational work and a lot of realism, and I just kept getting stuck, and I didn't really want to work on what I was working on. And so switching to abstract just made everything go so much better. And it was definitely a great kind of outlet for myself and just a way to kind of de-stress. Yeah,
Someone says, really enjoyed the talk, especially the inspiration photos.
thanks.
And
Great, thank
someone,
you.
yeah. And someone says, I love rotting. Any more to say about it? Like maybe about the colors?
Sure. Yeah, so that one, um, if you, oh, Grace, if you want to also, I guess you could like go back to that slide.
I'm sure.
Um, yeah. So this one was, let's see about the colors. The colors, you know, I don't really remember how I got to these colors. I knew I wanted to have it so that the sort of like inside parts were of course darker and got progressively darker, because that was kind of a part of, I mean, one, what it looks like in real life, and also just how you sort of trick the eye into thinking it's a three-dimensional space. And I think that, well, they were kind of colors that were from the the wood that I was looking at. So, you know, neutrals and some browns. And the purple was, I guess, kind of a play off of how blue is commonly used in shadows and in paintings and in anything, and just a way to also make it a little more interesting and kind of put a spin on some of the colors that you might not uh, that might not be as obvious in the source. Um, Other than that, I mean, this one was a lot of fun, and I I like the kind of the sort of illusion of space that it gives, and it is something that I'd like to maybe do in some other works in the future. Yeah.
Someone says they love the barnacle and the feathery pattern ones a lot.
Thank you. I'm glad.
Um, and this is sort of a combination of two questions. Are there any other objects or textures you might want to explore or experiment with in the future, including human artifacts?
Um, I could definitely see it going in the direction of kind of human-made things and human artifacts. Um, I I do really like abandoned places and abandonments and stuff like that. And so it would be interesting to kind of bring that in somehow. I don't know how, but it would be cool.
Yeah. And I think we'll end with this comment. Your work reminds me of photos I get to enjoy most every day in the home of my daughter. These photos were taken by a fabulous, well-known photographer. They are close-ups of cool-looking fungus growing on a tree trunk. The texture of the bark with the color and the texture of the fungi makes these frame pieces grounding, peaceful, and simply beautiful. Your work reminds me of these photos, so thank you for the presentation and keep up the work.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. I always love hearing the connections that people make between things.
All right, now we're getting people saying, bravo, good job.
Thank you.
And just to remind everyone who's attended this evening, we will be sending out a recording of the lecture, and it's going to be on YouTube. Not lecture, artist talk. So share widely with your networks, and I'll also send out a link to our webpage where these are listed with the prices. So if that's all, thank you, Daria, for joining us. This was really fun.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for hosting. And thanks again to everyone who's joined us tonight. I hope you enjoyed it.
Awesome. Everyone have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.